Hi, welcome to Felixstowe Live. My name's Chris, and this morning, we're going to be talking to someone I think you probably know a little bit, a man called Mark Jones. Mark, I've known him for a long time, and he's one of those people who kind of keeps an eye on the world as he goes along. One of the things that I created Felixstowe Live for was to actually let people express their opinion about what is happening in our world. Specifically in the world of Felixstowe, because we don't get much in the way of local news now. We get the occasional twice a week mention in the newspaper. We've got a jolly nice local radio station that does its best. And apart from that, well, kind of not much. So opinions from local people count. And that's what we're talking about here. So young Mark, just to give you a very brief outline, young Mark takes his dogs for a walk down at Landguard, and the other day came across something ridiculous. It was large tracked vehicles going across the land at Landguard where they could have gone up and down a road. The damage they did, well, I'll let Mark describe it for you. Tell me a bit about what happened, Mark, and about what your response was.
Good morning, Chris. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, thanks. Wednesday morning, early Wednesday morning, taking the dogs for a walk to avoid the heat of the day, an early morning walk. And in the distance, I spotted down at Landguard a tracked vehicle. It was a large excavator coming across what I recognised, even from that distance, as sort of grassy land beside one of the gun emplacements that's next to the radar mast, the ship's radar, the Harwich radar mast. And getting closer and closer, I could see that it caused quite a bit of damage. And I went up and challenged the people operating that plant. They're working on behalf of the Harwich Haven Authority, repairing some seawall defences there. You see them down there quite a bit. They've done a little bit of work, restoration work, improvement work on the Halfpenny Pier, which is not far up from that little stretch behind the Rangers bungalow there. And bearing in mind that Landguard is what's called a triple SI site. It's a site of special scientific interest. And that comes with it special protection. Natural England sort of administer these sites, as it were, and the protection orders. And as a triple SI site, it's as I say, it's afforded special protection, some of the highest sort of protection that land can be given and offered in the UK. So just to put that into context, if you were intending to clear some bramble down at Landguard, and you think, well, you know, bramble, I mean, that's the sort of thing we could do anything to, you know, if it's getting a bit too much. You'd actually have to get a special permit to actually remove any amount of bramble down at Landguard there. So, and you'd have to request, you know, put in a submission, a request to seek that authorization. So it was with absolute consternation that I see this 8-ton track digger travelling across this bit of parkland there, a bit of grassland there, which for those who haven't been down to Landguard, it's a very thin crust on top, a very thin layer of soil. You're going to pull up some pictures. I think these are pictures that I took the other day, Chris. And you can see how it's churned up that that land there. This is a photo here of the one of the haul roads, one of the concrete roads that run. There's several of them that run through the Landguard Common Nature Reserve. And what you're seeing here is from the sort of peninsular end, looking back towards the bungalow. And this is a track that a lot of walkers use and I've used it walking my dogs across, but it's always sort of compacted grass because you can see that people have walked across it, but never have I seen it in this state. And this state has come across because they've tracked an 8-ton digger and a 3-ton dumper across it. Here we are. There's another one. Now you'd say, well, so what? It's not a lot of damage there. You know, grass will grow back, surely. Well, in normal circumstances, grass that perhaps on your garden lawn or that you see in playing fields around and parks across Felixstowe, they are a different type of vegetation, and they have a topsoil and a subsoil underneath that is largely not exposed to extreme weather conditions. And what's particularly concerning is that once this is exposed, once that top layer is broken up, as you can see, it's very sandy underneath, and the extreme weather conditions that we're seeing more of year on year, and we noticed them in Felixstowe, high winds, heavy rain, or both, would soon wash that away. And once that happens, of course, well, that is erosion. That is part of the coastal erosion, and very little will grow back after that event. So, as someone who is, willing to hold put my head above the parapet, I made an approach to the contractors on site after speaking with them and doing a little bit of coaching on how to manage the area better in the future. For instance, use the concrete roads rather than making a shortcut across protected area, because it was the quickest route from A to B. It was the quickest route from their site office, their site setup, to their point of work further down the sea wall, and they get no consideration whatsoever. Now, working in construction as I have done for many years, I've also worked on SSSI sites. You have to really be very, very careful and put in mitigating steps to mitigate any damage or make good any damage that has caused either, accidentally. But this is clearly, no one's given any thought to the environment, and that's of deep, deep concern to me. I contacted the Landguard officer, project officer, and he's obviously not here to defend himself, but the response was less than satisfactory. The land down there is split. There is an invisible delineation, visible barrier, wall, line of ownership. The bit between the bungalow and the sea wall, effectively, and this is rather general terms, it belongs to the Harwich Haven Authority. It's their responsibility, and everything to the sea, the other way, is under the jurisdiction of East Suffolk Council. So the project officer works for East Suffolk Council, as I understand it, indirectly. And you've got Harwich Haven Authority. So I was less impressed by the response I got. It was a sort of verbal, over the phone, shrug of the shoulders, not me, Gov. You've got to speak to Harwich Haven Authority, which I did. And I even spoke to the CEO of Harwich Haven Authority, whose name escapes me, but I brought to his attention, funnily enough, Chris, and I printed it out, their environment policy, Harwich Haven Authority environment policy. And if you run down their 10 bullet points, and I don't wish to go through every single one, but I'll I'll pick out one, and that is one of their bullet points says collaborate with other organisations as far as practicable in the protection and improvement of the natural environment within the authorities, and that's Harwich Haven authorities, jurisdiction and surrounding areas. Now, what's clear is that there's been little to no project management, and the pillars of good project management, the three pillars is communication, cooperation and competency. And I haven't seen, and of course they're not here to defend themselves, Chris, I've acknowledged that, but they're little I've seen of them carrying out their duties, not only in line with their own policies, but those of managing a triple SI site.
So what you're really saying is that they didn't take enough care to ensure that kind of a vulnerable part of our landscape was looked after properly. You send a large tracked vehicle charging over a bit of kind of scrubland and you damage it for a period of time. And that period of time can be quite long, can't it?
Well, it could. Certainly on that more exposed part of the peninsula there, and it is, and you've filmed down there before, Chris, it is very exposed. And subject to obviously all the vagaries of climate events, so meteorological events. So it would take a very long time to repair. That's if everything was static and we would just had calm weather, bit of rain, bit of sun, bit of rain. But we don't have that luxury down in Felixstowe all the time. It's been nice recently, of course. But once the wind picks up, everything gets blown away and you've got that wind erosion there, and it will have little chance. The natural grasses and mosses and weeds, etc., that form part of that very thin layer, that small crust, thin crust of vegetation that holds that peninsula together. That's what's so special about, that's what one of the parts of being so special, a site of special scientific interest. The habitat, flora and fauna down there is quite unique, certainly in this part of the world, if not the whole world. That's why it's afforded these special protections. And one of the things that I just, if I may, Chris, just to, I mentioned about the sort of reaction that I got. I think this falls into something that I've seen more and more of, and those of us who are concerned citizens in Felixstowe and elsewhere, when we raise an issue with with the authorities who are largely responsible for taking care of not just ourselves but many other aspects of normal life and society, which includes environmental protection, importantly, is that when you challenge these authority figures, they put up a wall straight away, and they don't listen to you. They don't really open their ears and hear what normal Joe Blogs like myself or yourself have to say about a particular issue that concerns them. And they're on their guard, on their defensive all the time. And one of the things that I would hope that comes out of this is a bit of learning from both parties, the Landguard partnership, who look after that Landguard Common, Landguard Nature Reserve, East Suffolk Council, as well as Harwich Haven Authority. I think there needs to be a bit more joined up communication, cooperation, and a bit more competency, demonstrating that they're competent figures, competent organisations to look after our environment on our behalf. They're charged with that. So those of us who raise this, I like to think of myself as a critical friend to these organisations. I support them, but at the same time, they should. I'm not going to stand back and not openly bring these, constructive criticism, really, of their actions. And these actions will be, there is a scar now on that peninsula that will be there for a very long time. And that's a shame. It was all wholly avoidable. And if they'd have bothered looking up at their policies and procedures and being a bit more open to the fact that, well, it doesn't seem to me anyone's talking to one another down there and planning in the way that project managers, I have some experience of this, ought to be doing, and communicating with the stakeholders.
Okay, Mark. Well, we're going to leave it there, I think. I think you've made your point pretty well. I think the point that comes across to me above all is that this is a protected piece of land. It should be looked after properly. And what we've got is a situation where maybe through thoughtlessness, maybe through just not being aware, some real damage has been done that may take time to repair, that may take a long time to repair, or may never be repaired. Now, I don't know about you, but I've seen the Landguard Peninsula when it's actually flooded with seawater. Waves break against the seawall, come over, and the plants and animals that live in the area cling on to life. And then you drive a track vehicle across that land and you are probably damaging it for a long time. Mark Jones, thank you enormously for coming on. I hope we've got your opinion and your viewpoint over clearly. And if you or anybody else have a view to express, I'd love to hear from you. I'm Chris. This is Felixstowe Live. That's Mark Jones. He's better looking than me, but never mind. I'll see you soon.